Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Citizenship of the Republic bestows rights as well as responsibilities on all its people, and we as citizens of this nation have obligations to our country, our communities and our fellow citizens. These responsibilities can be heard in the words of Sean Lemass when he said, "Patriotism, as I understand it, is a combination of love of country, pride in its history, culture and traditions, and a determination to add to its prestige and achievements." Some would believe that patriotism is a cause and a word from a bygone era, where responsibility and obligation to the nation involved fighting for it and for the freedom of its people. Patriotism, or love of country today, no longer requires the sacrifice or volunteerism that Lemass would have known. But it does require a new kind of sacrifice, a new kind of commitment, and a new kind of volunteerism. This new volunteerism will and does require all citizens to play an active part in their country's future. Last week I met with Alan Cairns, and Alan Cairns, as the Cathaoirleach would know, is an inter-county hurler from Galway, but he is also Ireland's Person of the Year 2006. And being a star, an inter-county star, means that people recognise you. It also means a strict diet, no drinking and 10 months of social inactivity. But people admire the level of commitment and sacrifice, and it also means that you get recognised and you are respected. But Alan Cairns is also recognised and respected in a small town in western Zambia called Mangu. And they recognise Alan for a different reason than we recognise him here, because he has travelled there every year to lend a hand to one of the most poorest communities on earth. Since 2005, he has brought the story of the people of Mangu, and he has linked it with his own village of Clarenbridge in Galway. Through his work, he has created a link between two communities 6,000 miles apart. And the story of that Zambian town has travelled down the line like two children talking through cups linked by a piece of string. The people have responded to this story, and so far they have raised over €1 million for Sister Cathy and the children of the Cheshire Home and the town of Mangu, so that they can have a better life. The trade, this golden trade, has strengthened the ties between these two communities together. And throughout this country, there are thousands of people who act like those volunteers. This volunteerism is the force and the catalyst that can bond communities together. The Alan Cairns story shows what can be achieved when you harness a sense of community and volunteerism. Community is the only cure for the ills of modern living. It is the common denominator and the solution to loneliness, isolation, and antisocial behaviour and social breakdown. There is no doubt that in the Ireland of today, these threads are frayed over the last few years as communities have atomised, with people increasingly seeking fulfilment with consumer products and service individually. When you hear of a story of an old person dying alone, unfound for days, that trade is broken. When you hear that depression has increased by 100% since the 80s, the trade is broken. It is broken when individualism and consumerism replaces community as a source of belonging and fulfilment for people. The economic boom of the last few years demonstrates clearly that happiness doesn't necessarily follow wealth. Brian Crown, in his first address to Daly as Taoiseach, said, "The challenge we face today is to temper a rising tendency towards individualism within Irish society. This individualism can sap the energy from our sense of community, which is still strong and visible in so many ways. What we must prioritise is to turn the benefit of individual flair to the benefit of the community and the nation as a whole. Our responsibility is to fuel the engine of community, to lead the change away from the promotion of exclusive self-interest towards a superior value of wider community interest. The preeminence of community and country and active citizenship over self promotes social harmony and a better quality of life for all. However, there are those who say that in this new century, the world will not allow time for the fulfilment of obligations to this generation or the next. If one seeks excuses, then one will surely find them. But those who are too busy today would not be aware that this generation have more free time than any previous generation. So those who pursue happiness through continuous self-indulgence, through continuous consumerism, would not be aware of studies like Robert Putnam's Bowling Alone, which have proven that the more you give, the more you will receive in return. The endless pursuit of riches by some who seek to achieve the ultimate accolade of being the richest person in the graveyard, but we would do well to remember the words of Thomas Jefferson when he was berated by his mother for spending too much time on politics and in public service, to the neglect of his business. He wrote to his mother, "Mother, I would rather have it said that he lived usefully than he died rich." If a person doesn't volunteer in his community, or there is no community to contribute to, then we build, one person at a time, an increasingly unequal society as wealth grows. I believe there is one force that cements a community in the lives of people, and that is active citizenship. Bertie Ahern, in his time as Taoiseach of this Republic, advocated active citizenship in his speech on the 30th of September 2006. "I believe," he said, "that the quality of life in society and the ultimate health of our community depends on the willingness of people to become involved and active on behalf of themselves and their families, their communities, and the more vulnerable members of society. Happy the society that has people who act rather than lament, who organise rather than complain, who accept a personal responsibility rather than walk by on the other side." He set up the task force on active citizenship. And I'll conclude on this, Cathaoirleach. Education is the key to creating the next generation of active citizens. And I'm happy to hear that the NCCA are going to introduce a new subject in the fall of this year called Politics and Society. Because if as a society we believe that we can go off and send children to school and not teach them French for 14 years and then expect them to be able to speak French after going through school, well, obviously that's a fool's paradise. Similarly, if we send them to school and don't teach them how to be active citizens, how to vote and how to volunteer, then they obviously are not going to be active citizens.
Time is up, Senator.
The introduction, I'll finish on this, Cathaoirleach. It is often easier to believe that we cannot affect change, that we cannot make a difference. But think of that Galway jersey in that southern African town. Think of that golden thread connecting Clarenbridge to Mongo. And think of the words of Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change in the world you want to see, and the rest will follow.
I call the Minister to conclude. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the Senators for the opportunity you've given me not only to present some views